I'm Alden.
I'm Sarah, and we are travel agents. We recently moved from Arizona down to Mexico to run our travel agency full time. We'd appreciate if you would subscribe to our channel to support that journey. And if you have any upcoming trips and want to take the stress out of planning, we would love for you to click the link below in the description so we can do that for you.
Today we're going to give a rundown as to what the steps are as far as getting registered, getting your visa, everything to make your way to Mexico. During our research and doing our own due diligence, we came across a lot of good information, but it was kind of piece by piece. And so our goal today is to try to have all that information in one video and break it down for you. First step in this process is to meet with the consulate. Whether that's in your state or nearest your state, you're gonna have to meet with somebody there. I emailed and called with the one that was in our state. I didn't hear back for a couple weeks, so I actually just drove down and showed up, finally was able to get a hold of somebody that way.
The appointment we were able to get was scheduled 4 weeks out, and that appointment is going to be to secure your visa. You're going to need to get your visa in order to get a temporary residence. If you are going to be taking your vehicle with you, you're going to need to apply for a temporary import permit. I'm going to refer to that in this video as a tip. My suggestion to you would be to make that appointment for the same day so you can avoid multiple trips down to the consulate.
We're going to run through the requirements and documentation you're going to need when you have that appointment with the consulate. You're also going to want to make sure that you have minimum 2 to 3 copies of each because they won't be able to make any copies for you on site, and some of those they're going to need to keep as well. So you just want to make sure you're prepared for that.
All right, there's a lot of requirements and documentation, so get your pens and paper ready. You're also going to see me looking down, referring to my list. You're going to need, your passport is going to need to be valid for 6 months from the time you're going, and you need to have at least 2 blank pages in there. With your passport, you need to make a copy of the front page with your photo ID, the back page with the barcode, and any of the pages that are stamped. You need to have at least 2 copies of each of those pages. There will be a $48 fee per person. You can pay this with cash or card, but not American Express. You need to have a passport photo. So go to your local Walgreens, CVS, wherever you do that, but you need a passport photo. There is an application you need to complete, and you can look below. We're gonna have the link for that popped up here. Proof of legal status if you are not a United States citizen. If you own any property in Mexico, bring the deed or the purchase agreement, the original, and a copy. If you're retired, you need to bring the letter from Social Security along with copies. When you're presenting your bank statements or investments, you need a letter from the banker stating that you are the sole owner of that bank account. I was able to really easily get that, just called my bank, they emailed it over to me, that was no problem. If you are presenting a shared or a joint account that does not show individual income, bring your marriage certificate and an apostille, 1 copy per person. Each person applying for a temporary residence must present his or her own income. If you're processing as a family unit, an apostille of your marriage certificate is required. Even though you're using 1 bank account, you need to bring a copy for each person, and that includes minors. So if you have kids, you need a copy for each of them as well. Any documents that are from a different country other than Mexico require an apostille, which is basically a certificate of authentication, and it has to be translated into Spanish if it's in a language other than English or Spanish. Your income must be converted into US dollars or it will not be accepted. If you are a business owner showing income from your business, you must present an official document verifying that you are the owner of that business. For us, it was from the Arizona Corporate Commission or whatever state you're living in, their corporate commission. For temporary residents, you're gonna be required to supply your most recent 6 months of bank statements. There are income requirements, and you can see the pop-up below for those. I also suggest highlighting, you're gonna have a copy for each person, highlight each person's income on their copy. This will make it a lot smoother at the consulate. It sped things up for us because they didn't have to search for it. Note, if you are doing a family unit, there is an additional requirement, so that is in the pop-up below as well. If you are doing it based off of savings or investments, you're gonna be required to give 12 months of bank statements. With a minimum balance, and you can see those amounts in the pop-up below as well.
In order to become a permanent resident of Mexico, you either need to be retired or have fulfilled your 4 years of temporary residency in Mexico. Here are the requirements to become a permanent resident in Mexico.
So you need to have proof of sufficient funds, and that is based off of savings or investments. We're going to put that amount in the pop-up below. Otherwise, you need to have a proof of monthly income meeting a minimum monthly requirement, and you can see those amounts below. With both of those, if you are doing investment accounts, you will need to provide again the 12 months of bank statements. If you are basing it off of a monthly income, you will need to provide the 6 months of bank statements. If you are not retired, you can only be granted temporary residency. That's the category we fell into. We were granted, when we got our temporary residency, we were granted 1 year up front. We'll go back to renew after a year, at which point we'll apply for a 3-year, and then from there you can get your permanent. You do not need to submit financials again. You simply just apply and pay the fee moving forward.
All right, once you complete that meeting with your consulate rep, don't be alarmed. They're actually going to keep your passports at the office site for at least one night. You have to come back and pick them up. And what they're doing is they're actually putting the visa stamp on there. That visa is valid for 6 months. So you essentially have 6 months to make your way into Mexico. Okay, the next step is going to be for those of you that are actually bringing your vehicle into Mexico and what is required of the temporary import permit.
All right, so a few things that you need to bring. You need to have a title for the car. If your car is financed and you don't own it outright, you will need a letter from your financer authorizing you to take that car temporarily into Mexico. In our case, we owned our car outright, so we just had the title, the registration, we had to provide our passport, and there is a fee, which we're gonna put in the pop-up below based on the year of your car. You will also pay a deposit and a fee. The fee is $51. The deposit is based on the year of your car, and you'll see the pop-up below. You do get that back when you surrender your temporary import permit at the border when you come back to the States. But you do have to go back to the border in order to get that. There is also an application and a form that you will need to complete and bring with you. And you will need to purchase Mexican car insurance. We used Baja Bound is the one we've used. They had great rates. They had full coverage that covered the value of the entire vehicle with low deductibles. We have a few links for you handy here because we chased all over the place trying to find these. So the first link is going to be for you to make an appointment online with the consulate for the temporary import permit. That's the first link.
Yep.
The next link is for you to actually do the application for the temporary import permit online. That's link number 2. The last link is for the requirements to get the temporary import permit. In case I'm talking too fast for you or you don't want to rewind and listen, there is a full link here that gives you all of the requirements in writing.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about the actual drive into Mexico. The biggest thing that I realized was the conditions of the road. There are a ton of potholes. It's not smooth sailing all the time.
Be prepared to white knuckle it.
You're white knuckling it the whole way. And so that's the biggest concern. So what I would suggest is to make sure that the condition of your car is ready to roll. Fresh tires, have a spare tire available, tire repair kit, air compressor. Things like this are just going to give you a little bit more peace of mind because you don't want to be stranded on the drive if you can help it. Also want to make sure that you have minimum 2-3 copies of your driver's license, passport, and your tip. If you do get pulled over by chance, and you probably will, when you get stopped, they're going to ask you for those forms and you want to give them a copy of those. They may end up hanging on to them. Whatever the case might be, just make sure that you have enough copy of those.
One thing you're also going to want to make sure you bring with you is pesos. When we stayed at the Holiday Inn Express in Nogales the night before. That allowed us to be really close to the border. They had a money exchange place right next door. Get a couple $100 worth of pesos. We spent between $200 and $250 in US dollars for the tolls.
Before our drive over the border, we ended up staying at a hotel that was within 10 minutes of the border. We wanted to make best use of daylight and drive only during the daylight. So right at sunup, about 6 a.m., we crossed and were able to go. That would be our suggestion to you.
So once we crossed over the border, one of the things that really threw us off is you have to stop at kilo marker 21, which was about 30 minutes over the border. And I was in a frantic thinking we missed the office where we need to get our visa stamped and get the paperwork. So one thing to just be aware of, it is a ways into the Highway 15D before you hit that mile marker. So it is 21. It's on the right hand side. It's a small little building. There's some car park arches overway there. So that's where you're going to want to stop. They'll stamp your visa. We were in and out of there in less than 10 minutes. There was only one person ahead of us because we were so early in the morning. So they're going to stamp your visa. They're going to mark it Kanye, and they're going to give you 30 days on your FMM to go turn that in to get your temporary residence.
Yeah, the biggest thing as a driver going down there, it's not super clearly marked, but it is on your right side if you're driving south from the U.S. down Highway 15D. So as you're driving down, you want to keep your eyes on the right side, and you'll eventually see it.
It's definitely not ideal to miss it, although we were able to pull a U-turn about a mile ahead because we realized pretty quickly that we passed it.
Yep.
So it was an option. Definitely not ideal though. Try to make sure you don't miss it.
Once you get into Mexico, you have 30 days to make your way to an INM office to obtain your actual residency card. The INM office, that's the Institute of National Migration. And we were told initially that we could go to an INM office in any Mexican state. We stopped at one that is not the one we're residing in, and they informed us that we would have to go to the INM office that we live in the state that we live in. So we ended up keep driving and eventually stopped at the one that we reside in.
All right, so once you get to the INM in the state that you live in, I do suggest going as soon as they open. Ours opened right away at 9 a.m. We were there by 8:40, 8:30 in line. We were number 2 or 3. We were able to get in and out within 2 hours, and we walked out with our temporary resident cards. When you go, you need to bring with you your passport and your visa. Also bring copies. You need to bring Form Basico, which is in the pop-up below. You need to bring your FMM, the original and the copy, so the one you received when you crossed the border. And then there's also another online application. Link is in the pop-up for you to bring that. So when you go to the INM to get your initial temporary residency card, they are going to grant it for 1 year. After 1 year, you can go back and renew it for 1, 2, or 3 additional years, giving you 4 total years under a temporary residence. And at that point is when you can apply for your permanent residency. The 1 year temporary residency was about $285 US per person. Your 1 year temporary residency, you can go back to submit your renewal 30 days prior to it expiring, which you want to do because it does get busy, and if there's any delays or you're missing anything, you just want to have a buffer there. For those of you that got the temporary import permit, after you get your temporary residency card, you're going to want to go to the aduana, and then you're going to want to extend that temporary import permit. There's no cost to do it. You just need to bring a copy of your passport, your visa, and the current temporary import permit that you have. They'll extend it and match the date of your temporary residency card. So then after you're in Mexico for a year, you'll go back to the INM to submit your renewal. Once you do that and it's approved, you'll go back to the aduana again, and then you'll do the extension on the tip again as well.
In order to keep your tip valid, you must keep your U.S. car registration valid as well. If one is void, then the tip becomes void as well. So it's something to keep in mind.
And if you do not keep that registration valid, or you don't extend your tip and you get pulled over, they can impound your car and they can take it. So it's really important that you follow all the guidelines and cross all your T's, dot all your I's.
Guys, thank you for spending some time with us. We hope that this video has been informative. The biggest thing is to do your own due diligence. Try to make sure that you're prepared. The more you know, the better you'll be prepared to get down there. Make sure your car is in good shape to get down there, and beyond that, safe travels.
If you have any questions, please put them in the comments below. We'll do our best to guide you. We hope this was helpful to you. Just a reminder, we are travel agents, so if you love to travel, we do have an exclusive Facebook group called Vacay Mode On. We'd love to see you in there sharing some of your pictures from down in Mexico or your other travels. And if you want to take the stress out of planning, let us know. We'd love to help you out. Book an unforgettable vacation that you'll never forget.
Take care.
Bye-bye.